Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing the mysterious world of Professor Dark and His Shadow, specifically about the origin of how I got the story and of the short story collection book that is now available, and specifically about the upcoming novel I'm working on, The Burning Fire Rises. That will be the full novel of Professor Dark and His Shadow as they begin their journey into a series of novels. Okay, so starting right off the bat, origin. Professor Dark and Miss Shadow really started beginning to take shape when I was still trying to create comic books. A long time ago, I was trying to start a comic book company myself, and that didn't pan out. I was in the midst of creating one comic and then had several ideas for other ones. But unfortunately, I was not doing well trying to start up my own. I got a little ambitious and tried to create only one comic, but I wanted to make 50 issues, and long story short, that just didn't work. The other comic I had in mind was originally going to be like this monster sleuth kind of comic, where it had like a young teenage version of like of Count Dracula, only it was a female, and Frankenstein, and it was going to be called Frank and Vamp. And then they were going to have like another team with them with all the monsters. And it was basically going to be like an X-Men, only with these characters. Professor Dark was originally going to be like this mysterious sleuth that rides with his other mysterious sister he was going to have. And I just sort of developed the characters from thereabouts on. They never really took off. I never continued it. I had a few sketches. It looked promising. I had Professor Dark, and I called him Dark just then. And he had a bit of a top hat, and was pretty dark. Like everything was about them was dark. So it wasn't until like I started my first novel that I started tinkering with the idea of taking that idea and growing it into something more along like a Doctor Who X-Files kind of vibe. I never really thought about Mr. Strange in a way, like the the Wizard of Strange in the comic books, Doctor Strange. I wasn't really a fan of his, so I wouldn't say that it was based on anything like that, because it wasn't. I had this idea before I even really did any research about Mr. Strange. Sorry, Doctor Strange. But I couldn't really call him Strange, which I wanted to. I really wanted to call him Strange. And then it was going to be Dark, and then I was like, no, I can't have Dr. Dark. So I just went with Professor. He was going to be a professor looking into all these strange anomalies. And he was just going to be the most mysterious person. What I liked about Doctor Who was that he had no real origin point. Well, he didn't back then. They kind of destroyed that mythos altogether, but I won't go into that. But I like that idea of like somebody having a background you don't know, and so how do you judge them? And that's how I wanted him to be. I wanted him to be mysterious. He is a mysterious person. You don't know how long he's lived. You don't know where he comes from. You don't know if he's human or not. And that's how I liked it. I wanted to keep him a total mystery, and his student, Miss Shadow, which she has like a mysterious origin. And will I talk about it more in the books? Probably. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When I started developing the story, I wanted to create a series of short stories in the beginning. I wanted to see if there was an interest for these characters. And while I didn't really create an origin story for them, I felt that they didn't need one. They don't need to have everything explained right away from the get-go. I mean, obviously there should have been a little bit of a backstory, but I think I'll carry that on in the books of where their backstories come from. The first story I did was Into the Shadow of Darkk, which was my first short story of the two of them. It took a bit to write, mainly because I wasn't sure where the story should be directed. But once I got the feel of it and I got into the characters, in my head I was wrapping the idea of who they are, where they're from. I know everything that needs to be known about them, so they're known to me and me alone, of where they all come from. But like I said, as the story progresses, we will get more into them. The next story after that short story was Haunted House on Henry Street, which got them into the aspects of the horror element and dealing with the paranormal. The first short story was dealing with a demon or some sort of a creature from beyond the dimensions that was haunting people or trying to steal their souls in a way. And then this book, in the haunted house, it was this entity who had taken over an entire street and was pretty much being evil, and so they had to go and confront this evil that had taken over. And then the next story was about the moon, Darkk on the Moon. And Darkk on the Moon was about taking place on the last Apollo flight, Apollo 17, and it was taking Darkk to the moon. And Darkk was there in the 60s, all by himself. This time he doesn't have Miss Shadow with him, which gives you an insight as to, why wasn't she there? And he was there to locate something on the moon. I won't tell you what it is, but obviously it has to deal with something that gets discussed a lot sometimes in media and stuff. So that story, those three stories were my original 3 short stories, which got me going, and I had some good reviews for them, and so I just kept going, and and then after that I started developing more stories to complete a full book. I did another, I think, 3. And the third one was called A Matter of Tooth, where this little boy comes in and he has a run-in with Professor Darkk and Miss Shadow while he's going to the dentist. It's a bit of a funny one, and it's shorter than I think most of them. Probably not as short as the first story, Into the Shadow of Darkk. But then came The Ranch of Evil. The Ranch of Evil was, actually, I think I had, did I have 8 stories in here? Or 6? 6 stories, sorry. 6 stories, yes. So The Ranch of Evil was about Darkk infiltrating this secretive group that meets in this ranch for nefarious reasons. He confronts them about it, and there's some more bits of story thrown in that kind of tease you along into the next one. And so I did Ranch of Evil, and then What Time Is It? Dealing with some time traveling issues. And then, so that was the third story. And then I also put in a preview of the next book, the full book coming, the book 1. And I had a sample chapter of it in that book. If you want to read them, please go to the Kindle site of Amazon and you can download the entire book there. There's also the 3 original short stories there if you prefer to just try one out. And they also come on, those 3 are also available on Audible if you prefer to listen to the story. The first story is written as the first 3 are going to be a little different from where the original, where the collection book was, because I had originally thrown them out as short stories, and then I converted them onto Audibles with some voice acting. The one that gets the most props is the haunted house on Henry Street, because the voice actor was Alex Hyde White, who, if any nerds know him, he was in the Fantastic Four of the Roger Corman disastrous movie, but it's become a cult classic, apparently. But enough about him. We're going to continue on about the other stories. The three of this whole book was a collection I was thinking of doing originally. I wanted to have the first 3 stories be released, and then I was going to do another 3 sets of stories, and then release the book as a whole. I wasn't sure how that would go. I wasn't sure how everybody would take it at first. But I wanted to at least get some feelers out for the stories and see if there was any general interest of the characters. People that did enjoy the book, and if you did, thank you very much, and the stories as well. The whole book is interesting in its way because I've also introduced some new characters that tie into the coming novel. So that's why I created another whole book of The Mysterious World of Professor Darkk and Miss Shadow, the short story collection of Book 0. And that's what it is. This is Book 0. This is a starter for where the novels will go from there on out. So who are Professor Darkk and Miss Shadow? Professor Darkk is a mystery. Like I said before, he's been around for a long time. And nobody knows exactly how long he's been here, why he's here, and why he's trying to stop the dimensional creatures, the spirits, everything that paranormal happens in the world. He's there to not only stop, but also to examine, because he is a professor. He is interested in this sort of thing. And as we go into the next book, he will open up a bit more about where he's from, where he resides, and it will delve into their lives, really. But they'll be introduced to another third person who will be part of their group. And this is an FBI agent, Mathers, who will come and, on behalf of the FBI, he will be there as a representative because Darkk has worked with the FBI before in the past. It's sort of hinted at that he's been integral to some of their investigations in the past, but something happened along the way where he just totally disconnected from them and didn't want anything to do with them until he ran into this Special Agent Mathers. For some reason, he took an interest, and that's where the book will guide into. Miss Shadow is just as bizarre. She has powers that nobody can seem to explain. She's psychic. She's telekinetic. She has a sort of darkness within her that nobody knows what to make of. Mathers will try to get more about her because not too much is known about her. She's only been around for a short time, and the FBI is extremely keen on knowing who she is. The whole premise of these two was that they're such a mystery around the world because they have been everywhere, and nobody knows how they get around. Nobody knows why they come to their countries and do the things they do. And so they're known throughout the entire world, but nobody will acknowledge them publicly because what do you say about these characters that come and they deal with all this bizarre nonsense that the regular governments just can't figure out? So Professor Darkk has some powers himself. He has a book that he carries with him that will he'll use from time to time to unleash some of his powers, or some hexes, or he's got interesting powers that that seem to aid or kind of prevent these monsters from reappearing. How he does it, nobody knows. In the new book, they will ask those questions. And if you're a fan of this book and these characters, then you will want to see what happens to them in the fire. The burning fire rises. This book will sort of launch them into more. Hopefully the book will be successful, and I really do believe it will be successful. These characters are interesting. They're interesting to me. They're interesting to other people who have read the book. I encourage you to read the book and judge for yourselves. This book is not like my other ones. I usually write science fiction or science fiction fantasy, but I do like to delve into the occult, the bizarre, the strange, the unexplained. I was a big fan of X-Files, obviously, and Doctor Who, but I was also view him more as a sort of a Batman as well, because I feel like he wants to investigate. He's trying to be a detective as to where these creatures are coming from. And really, I like the idea of these two being a pair. She is a student of his, learning, and as he teaches her the ways to control her powers. Again, has questions about where she came from and how she's able to do these things, which Professor Darkk seems rather strangely reluctant to divulge to her. So the whole book will kind of go back and forth on that. Now, even though they are student and teacher, their relationship is highly dubious. It's not that he is trying to be bitter towards her or anything like that. He's just very. I think of him as the first Doctor in Doctor Who, where he's just sometimes he can be the most generous person, and then he can switch and be like a cantankerous old man sometimes. But he's a very strict professor, and he wants her to at least try and learn from his wisdom. And from time to time, she will teach him, because that's the kind of friendship they have. And it is a friendship between the two. They respect each other. And even though sometimes she will, she tends to think of him as a bit of as a overbearing teacher and father figure. She does listen to him, and she does enjoy his company. and he enjoys hers as well, even though she does irritate him sometimes with her quirky humor. Which, when Mathers comes, he will find that the two of them, seem to match each other's witty kind of repartee in a way. Professor Darkk can be a bit of a know-it-all, and which Mathers will soon discover. And he will be constantly questioning Darkk about Miss Shadow's origin, which I don't know if he'll divulge it yet. I don't know if it's one of these novels that's going to take time, and I don't want to answer all the questions right away for them. I think they need to take time. Why rush a thing? People that have been on, listen to my audibles, and they said, well, who are they? They need to have a origin story right away. And I'm like, not always. You don't need to know where everybody comes from right away. When Doctor Who came on, nobody knew where he was from. Nobody questioned his origins right away. He gave little hints what planet he was from and stuff like that. But Darkk, I want him to remain a mystery. I'm going to try to keep him a mystery as long as I can, only giving out some little details of he's been in the past. He's been around us for a long time. And the more you see where he lives, you'll understand the depth of how long he's been here and stuff. The book, the short story collection, I just really want to get some more reviews for it, because I'd like to know what everybody's opinion is of the book and the characters as I progress into the next book. These two have been on my mind for a long, long time, and I know how it's going to end. Let's put it that way. I've already know where the beginning is, and I already know where the end is. So I have the in-between to fill. And when we get to the end, it will be a interesting end. But like I said, I'm getting ahead of myself. The book has just begun. I want you to get to know these characters, get to like these characters. Miss Shadow is not subservient to him, so I want to make her a strong female character. She's I don't want to make her seem weak. And when I was doing the story collective book, I reached out to a fan who was asking if she could edit the book, Laura Osles. And she helped me shape Miss Shadow a little bit better from the Audible books. I obviously don't want to make her seem weak, but sometimes I tend to do that because I'm a man. I'm a man that, I'm not a woman. I wouldn't understand that. But I try to. And I try my best to reach out to the female audience and help so that they can help me understand, what would be more her style of doing things. Because I had her looking at shoes and how much she liked shoes. And I was pointed out to me that, well, that seems rather shallow of her to just, want to look at shoes. And I thought, well, usually women do like shoes. But, I kind of corrected that a bit based on her suggestions, which is fine. The more I learn, the more I do better. So the book I kind of corrected in some things. I made her a bit stronger in the book. I don't want her to be the star. I want them to be the star. Not just him and not just her, both of them. I will tend to lean to Professor Darkk a bit more, only because he's been around a lot longer than she has. but really they're meant to be a duo, like a dynamic duo of paranormal. And yeah, I'm really excited to get this going. I mean, I'm halfway through the first novel. I have been for a while. I've been off writing other things at the same time. So I'm trying to get the book finished within this year, hopefully. I did plan it for sometime this year. I kept it open because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I do need more time to write it if I'm going to make it a full novel. It's a complicated story that it requires more thought, and but I will be writing some science fiction as well, and some other stories on the side as well. So please bear with me as if I try to make a date for it. I can't commit to it because sometimes my mind does tend to wander. Not a good sign. Somebody said you should make an outline, and I'm like, yeah, I suppose so. I've made a sort of outline, but really I know how the story is in my head. That's how I visualize. To me, it's a movie in my head, and I can turn on that movie anytime I want. And that's just how I write. I don't sit there and think about, well, what is this character going to do next? No, I know the characters. It's like I can basically hear them talking to me. If that sounds a little creepy, it might be. I can hear Professor Darkk talking to me when he's when he's saying things, but also I don't want to say that he's standing there beside me like the writer of Conan used to go on about how his character was right there threatening him to keep writing. No, they're not like that. But I do hear his voice from time to time telling me to complete what needs to be done. Kind of creepy, in a way. But he's a very interesting character, and I love writing Professor Darkk. He's a culmination of so many characters. But I based his look from Jack the Ripper, really. And maybe in a future story, he might be a suspect for that. But he is a very big mystery. And I hope that everybody comes with me on the journey for him. And, and enjoy the stories, enjoy the adventure that they're going to have. And we'll see where they end up in the long run. For now, this will be my this will be focusing on that. I don't know what more I can talk about it for right now. There's so much to do on this story that I feel overwhelmed sometimes, but for the most part, I hope to get back to it, and I hope to finish that novel. And yeah, I do have a series of other stories I'd like to get going once I get past this hump of this first story. More will be interesting. There's plenty of stuff to, do with these characters. And origins to slowly leak as they crop up. But they will be dealing with like aliens, like real nightmarish horrors, events that are just beyond explanation. It's the X-Files, Doctor Who, Batman, and whatever else. Millennium. I used to love Millennium as well. So it's just everything thrown in like that. And if you like that kind of paranormal thriller kind of horror books, then this book will be for you. I encourage you to go and read them or listen to them on Audible, like I said. And let me know what you think. And that's all I can talk about today for this book. So thank you for stopping by. And in our next segment, I will talk more of Your service is required. My latest novel, that is out right now, actually. I haven't made an audible for it yet. Too expensive. But I'm working on it. And thank you for stopping by. And we'll chat with you next time.